So, guys, you're going to laugh at me, but this is my first attempt to go live. And I'm doing it um, at a time that I know some of you might not be available because I was just trying to maneuver the space. But it's National Infertility Month. And it's amazing. I think, hold on a second. There could be one person here that's watching. Let me go see. Welcome. But it's National Infertility Month, and I think it's a time for us to reflect, this month of June, those of us who've gone through IVF and the struggles that we face with IVF. Not everybody is going to make a baby through champagne and roses, right? And it can be difficult. But, what's interesting, guys, is I was actually, looking to see, what was being said about this month, and I came across some pointers that I thought was interesting. If in people who are looking to support somebody who's going through this journey. But the reason this month is so important, guys, is because number one, it increases the awareness regarding infertility issues. I can't tell you how much there's like a stigma. It's what I see, outside of the YouTube space in the community. Many of you know that I do go out to groups to just give support. It's my way to give back after the blessings of my journey. I've been going through the 12 IVF cycles, going through this journey for 4 years and navigating a dreaded form of infertility, diagnosis, age-related infertility. And I think there isn't an awareness. I mean, most of you, I think, have agreed with me in your emails to me, responses to the videos. And I think when we talk about things like we're not educated about this. And I know this sounds silly, but I, for example, did not know that our eggs, that we are born with all the eggs we're ever going to have. I don't know why I thought that we get a new supply every 3 months. I don't know why I thought that. And I actually thought that the reason older people didn't have babies was because they were just physically tired and they reached a stage of their life where they just couldn't cope. I didn't think that it was literally that they could not, So I do think this month is important because it does, create a lot of awareness. Another thing that I found interesting in terms of what's out there about this month is the whole introduction to solutions, because that was the thing. I remember, guys, when I was really filled with a lot of shock getting into this arena because I just did not know. I just felt like I wasn't prepared. I wasn't educated enough. So when my doctors were trying to provide me solutions, which now I can totally understand why doctors would provide me a solution. But back then, you could have seen my resistance, The biggest one, I think, was the solution of deciding on a pathway to baby, donor egg. And I remember just being so shocked about that because, not to say that a lot of the celebrities have used donor eggs because we don't know people's fertility. We don't know, everybody's different. But, I was mentioning and name dropping celebrities. And then I remember my doctor was trying to educate me and let me know that there are different pathways to baby. But also because IVF is so expensive. And so it would have made sense because at the time that I started my journey, IVF was actually mostly the conventional type of IVF. And it was expensive. It was $25,000. And it would make sense that they would want us to be successful. But I was still recovering from the fact that IVF would not even be a solution for us. I mean, I was stuck at that. And I think it was really, really difficult. So yeah, and I think, National Infertility Month, what it does, this whole introduction to solutions, what What do you do when you get a failed cycle? What do you do when the diagnosis is not what you thought it was? I think could is difficult as well. Um, Another thing I found that was being distributed about this month is the fact that this month gives hope. Really, I think that's why some of us brave enough to get into this space, share our experiences. I know without a doubt that I would not have been in this space um, if it wasn't for individuals like, Simply Tanika, um, you know, before her most recent journey, doing a reg journey, she actually went through a journey where she was trying to conceive with her own eggs. And what was so appealing to me, I call it the Oprah infertility, because I've never really met anybody who fought so hard. In every video you could see, she maximized every opportunity that she had, and it was so empowering. It was so empowering to those of us who would watch. And I remember being a silent watcher. And any of you who's kind of going through that journey, if you check Simply Tanika's old videos, you will walk away with a sense of hope. Her struggles are not in vain, because I think they really just empower and inspire. And I really used to put her on speaker when I'm driving to my appointments, because you want people that are willing to fight, to maximize, and to give you a voice, even if it doesn't work out, right? So I think she's a good person, and National Infertility Month is a time for us to share some of these resources. And she's waiting to have her baby Earthside. Amazing. Other individuals I know that were deeply inspirational to me, to us, Chris plus Joe. Chris plus Joe don't post as much anymore, but you can look them up on YouTube. Chris plus Joe, they are just, when you're talking about a married couple just going through the tenacity and the struggle, and you see their love for one another through it all. I think the greatest gift that Chris plus Joe shared was how couples can work together through this type of a journey, knowing that it is possible. And it was so nice to be able to kind of see her husband and her bond together. And their journey is absolutely amazing. They documented actually a lot of the IVF journey. If you look at the older videos, they rebranded, which was amazing. But they're such an amazing, inspirational couple to watch. Obviously everybody knows Phil and Alex. I love Phil and Alex. They're doing a lot of just their home style videos now. They interject infertility here and there, but they really, really, really emphasized and shared in the most humbling way when Alex was going through miscarriage after miscarriage after miscarriage. And then they did the PGTA testing, and it gave the story of all their embryos. Very powerful messaging, to just guide you as you're starting your journey. So as we honor National Infertility Month, I think that those are great YouTubers to pay attention to. Yeah. Laura Laws is another one. Laura Laws to me is really, I think, one of the reasons Baba was able to stick my baby. She and unfortunately, like in most cases, it was her loss that was the benefit of many of us. She was of advanced maternal age. She had significant ovarian reserve. We're talking 20 plus eggs, each egg retrieval. But understandably, because of age-related infertility, very few of those were genetically normal. But what happened was, for her, it was the transfer stage, right? We don't talk about that as well. And she did not go through an ERA test, which tests the receptivity of the embryo, your body to the embryo, because it's an artificial process. So as my husband explained it to me, and so you do have to make sure that the conditions are optimal, right? Because the body is made of God, and when you do it that way, everything is perfect, right? But when you're engineering this, it has to be perfect conditions recreated. And the ERA dictates the level of progesterone and weight needs to be And when I also did it and realized that I actually needed more progesterone, um, it was really powerful because Baba wouldn't have been here if it wasn't for that. So it's amazing how these YouTubers sharing your story, whether it's in passing to a person, a thought, an idea, is amazing. Yeah, it's hope. It's giving hope. I think the generations are changing. Everybody, we are not. This is not how it used to be. I could never dream of having my children in my 20s like my mother did. My mother had her last child when she was in her early 30s. I think she was 31 or 32. I'm having my first at the age of 46. Um, and when I look at it, it's not. Just was not ready. I was not ready. Um, and that's the thing. It's like times are changing now. You can't expect women to have children from the ages of 15 to 24. I mean, you don't even know yourself. And cost of living, we women, it's just, you're not even thinking at the age of 15 to 24, which is your optimal fertility. You're not even thinking of settling down, yet alone getting married, guys. So it's just times are changing. I don't know if you guys ever, I don't know if you're watching the young generation, but I sometimes it's a relationship that doesn't work, guys. I see that there's two of you actually watching. Feel free to write in the chats and let me know. We're engaging in this conversation for National Infertility Month. I'm doing my first live, guys. You can see me here, just taking a quick lunch break and, you know, connecting with you guys a little bit before I do a formal one. I'd never done a live before, so I wanted to kind of do it when there's a few people, right? But it's like I was sharing. I'm seeing younger and younger generations. The biggest thing, and I don't know, you know, if there was a media person called Shalom. She had PCOS. People talking about PCOS, preventing them from having children, people wanting to have children not being able to, or broken relationships. Like you've dated somebody since your 20s, but obviously people are not getting married in their 20s these days, guys, right? And then you break up with the guy when you're 30. And then what do? Right? Or, you find the person, but later in life. Guys, it's tough, right? It's tough. It's tough for us women, and it's like that. There is really that biological clock, right? Um, so it's interesting. Yeah. So it's very, very difficult. So, and actually, if you're watching this, I think I have enabled the chat. I think being able to communicate with only to subscribers. So maybe one of the reasons you're not able to comment is because I didn't make it like all public because it's my first live. So if you're not a subscriber, if you wanted to subscribe and join into the conversation, I think that would be amazing. But I thought I'd hop into this space. You can see me kind of like in my mama gear face right now. You can tell I'm a mom, disheveled and everything. Hi, Laura. Oh, hey, Laura. Thank you. I know. Laura, it's interesting because it took a lot, Laura, to get into this space and start doing that. But I had to, Laura, because it's like, Laura, when you're watching these, like I know exactly what you mean because I'd make the same comments for Simply Tanika and like Phil and Alex. I was like a silent watcher. And because I just needed, I needed to focus on my journey, and I didn't want to make comments. I wanted to get on there, Laura, and just kind of get the information, right? And then, oh my God, when it worked, it's like, this space is literally saving our lives because nobody talks about it, Laura. Nobody Nobody talks about it at work. Nobody, I mean, it's like it's a hidden thing. And you know what's funny? Um, hey, Angel Smiles. Oh, thank you for watching. I was just mentioning to Laura here, just kind of letting her know because she says she watched all my videos. I used to do the same for other YouTubers. And then I that's why what you're seeing probably in my videos, and thank you for saying you enjoy them, is the energy. I knew I needed to give back because it's like, are you kidding me? Everybody thought I was crazy. Everybody, 12 every because they don't know. I'm like trying to explain. Ricky's trying to explain, but people are just seeing, the surface. 12 cycles of IVF. I'm like, I don't have eggs. Throughout my 12 cycles, I only had 25 eggs. That's like how much some people have in like 1 or 2 IVF cycles, right? I was a poor responder. I had multiple issues. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So, and Laura here, I say, yes, I know absolutely. I feel the more I learn, the more I feel like I get just a little bit of control over. Yes, exactly. Laura, you're absolutely right. The more, and that's exactly what I did. The funny thing is the whole thing about fertility journals, literally, Laura, I had a journal and I'd write down, like I'd go to Phil and Alex and I'd see like, because I was monitoring them too, and I'd write down notes about PGTA testing. I'd go to Simply Tanika and I'd follow her like when she was using her own eggs, and I'd write down notes, what medicine was she taking and how she's responding to the doctor. So I get it. And that it gives you that control for your next doctor's appointment and empowers you. Absolutely. Angel Smiles. So you're 41. Okay. And you finished 3 rounds of mini IVF. I know. Oh, Angel Smiles. I know. I remember my 3rd cycle. I know you remember out of my 12. I remember my 3rd one, and I made such major decisions in that one, Angel Smiles. But the thing is, if this helps, what can get, you're doing the right thing. Like even the fact that you're doing mini IVF means that at 41, you're protecting the eggs that you have left. And we don't talk much about that, but that's the beauty of mini IVF is the minimal stimulation meds you're taking, because our eggs are old. I mean, and I don't mean that facetiously, but we we don't have young ducklings anymore. So the mini IVF is gentler. Like I honestly started feeling like my body started responding more, Angel Smiles, to the mini IVF. And even if the cycles were not successful, I knew at the back of my mind that I had made the right treatment decision, because now it wasn't an issue of the meds or anything or my body not responding. It was my body's responding. These are my eggs, and I'd get to see, okay. And I remember, if you watch my videos, there was that cycle where I had the most eggs I'd ever had. It was January of 2021. 4 eggs, never made 4 eggs at once. None of them was normal. But what keeps me motivated is I knew that I had the right treatment, and I knew that I was hunting for the golden egg. And so hopefully that helps. Yeah, and also doing PGTA. I see that, Angel Smiles 86. Yes, I think Phil and Alex, I mean, you can see the event. I mean, can you imagine all those miscarriages that Alex had? And then when she did the PGTA and realized that she kept transferring ones that were not normal, and she's younger. Yeah, I'm glad that you think about doing it. I mean, there's some, you don't necessarily need to do it at certain ages, but I think when the stakes are so high, it doesn't hurt. Absolutely. Hi, Laura. Oh, thank you, Laura. Yeah, giving hope to others. Stay as motivated. It's so hard. It is hard. It is hard. Yeah. And then Laura, here you say, one of the best things I heard you say on a video was about how even a bad cycle or unstilted. Yes, Laura, I thank you for leaning onto that, because it's a fight. You start to learn with age-related infertility that once you do the research and learn what you're doing, take control, I started to, like my husband, Ricky said this to me, because you will break down, and it's normal. But you got to do the Oprah breaking down, like you do your boo-hoo-hoo, and then you pick yourself up, because we got to focus on the eggs for the next cycle, because we're dealing with literally a biological clock. And And then, Ricky would sit down and say, okay, what went well this cycle? And I remember the moment he started doing that, I started relanguaging myself, and the power of taking ownership of it in a way that is the truth and not just this is a failure, but okay, what happened? And I think it really helped. Really, that's the trick. That is how I made it to 12 cycles of IVF. It was strategically knowing my odds. So first off, data. My clinic, one of the things that Ricky would ask my doctors each time was, have you worked with women before who are Kay's age? And what was the results? How, because also that helped me understand that I'm dealing with age-related infertility. I'm in my 40s. So I couldn't compare myself with my friend who was much younger at 35, trying and having IVF at that age, because it's very different. And so even if my journey took longer, I understood why. I understood, for me, because I was dealing with diminished reserve. So unlike Laura Laws, she's in her 40s and she had a reserve of like 25 eggs, guys. She had that many eggs, but she also had age-related infertility, because you could have 25 eggs and not have many that are normal. Now I had diminished reserve, so mine was not 25. Sometimes I had one egg. So I'd have like 2 or 3 follicles at the scan, but then the ones that would stick around would end up being 1 or 2. That's why I did mini IVF, because we want to give every embryo a chance. And so there was no reason why I needed to take $5,000 worth of medication. And then I was also a poor responder. So if you'd give me medicine, I wouldn't respond to it. And that's why I needed a doctor who was willing to find out what I would respond to. And eventually it ended up being like my body would always respond to minimal medicine. Literally, guys, half a Clomid pill and menopause every other day, 75 IU is all my body was satisfied. If you gave me more than that, I'm like, I don't understand how this it's like, I don't know what's, but everybody's different, right? But, lessons like, okay, fertilize, like Ricky would say that, okay, you know what, it fertilized. It made it to the 3rd day. Okay, it made it to the 5th day. Okay, if it was not PGTA normal, we find out from the geneticist. What does that mean? And geneticists would say, this is an embryo that would have made it 3 months and have no chance of life. I mean, it was just, so the messages from other YouTubers, writing the notes, in my head, it was like I had simply Tanika's tenacity, Phil and Alex's information on PGTA, and then I had Laura Laws's message on the ERA, because, also the timing, right? Because it's a science project. It's not that it's a science project, but you get what I mean. It's science. So God is so perfect that when you make a baby with champagne and roses, everything falls according to plan, because he is the Almighty. Praise be to Jesus. When you make babies, but when you're trying to do it in the lab, that's why you have to kind of go through these processes, because you are, I don't want to say engineering it, but you're trying to set the epitome conditions. And that's what I picked up from Laura when she did the ERA. But yeah, awesome. That's amazing. So Angel Smiles, you're hanging in there. And I hope that in watching my videos, you'll just take a little bit away. And I'm glad that you have. And Laura, absolutely, prayers, prayers our way. And, it's funny because just last week, it's National Infertility Month. And there are actually some community groups. And I remember, but it's so private. I think this whole thing, I wonder why do you guys think it's so private? Why do you guys think people don't want to talk about it? Do you think it's shame, or what do you guys think? And let me know in the chat. So I'm just curious. I don't, yeah, I don't know. But that's something that I think about too, is that, yeah. Angel Smiles 86, you're right. I think it's hard for people to talk about it. I think it's, yeah. I think that's what I've observed. And I do keep the privacy of it, and never share too much about those. Oh, Angel smiles. Yes, I have family members too who. Mhm. You know what's funny? Um, Angel smiles 86. I We just had Baba's birthday, and he turned one. It's amazing. And I had a friend of mine that came to the birthday, and I had started feeling concerned because the wife was not coming to events. But I am, you know how sometimes in friends group you're closer to one, you're closer to one person from the couple group. And I actually was closer to the husband in terms of friendships, just knowing them. And I thought, well, maybe it could be a situation where there was other things going on. But then I found out at Baba's party, after I walked my friend to the car, that wife was going through infertility. So actually, I immediately just gave my friend Dr. Yillian's contact information, my doctor, my IVF doctor, because I think they have been trying, but maybe trying to figure out doctors. Yeah. Um, and Laura here, I also feel like it gets straight. Yeah, talking about it. No one really knows what to do or say. You know, I think you're right, Laura. Absolutely. No one knows what to say. Um, or, Laura, they say the wrong thing, right? And not everybody has a thick skin about it. Like, just adopt. Oh my God, the number of times. Oh my gosh, Laura, Angel Smiles 86. The number of times. Oh my gosh. Like, first off, like adoption like it's easy. I'm like, do you guys even know? Exactly. Do you know how expensive it is to adopt a child? First off, you know, and granted, adopting an older child is not as expensive as an infant. But first off, it's like, and the requirements, like I just, it's a book. It's much more expensive to adopt than to go through IVF. But yeah, people say that a lot. Yeah, you know. People don't understand. Yeah, I know. In fact, Laura, to your testament, it's funny because when I was going through my 12 cycles of IV, people thought that I was crazy. Simply Tanika was the friend in my head because I was like, I'm so glad I finally got to connect with Simply Tanika because, God, Tanika, you're like my big. So Tanika is like my sister. She's like my older sister, and she just doesn't know that because she was the only person I could talk to in my head because it's so draining, Laura. I'm trying to tell them I have age-related infertility, and I also have diminished ovarian reserve. And so I I have to go through multiple cycles because I don't produce enough eggs in one cycle. I don't have them. But my doctor thinks the little I have, there's a probability that 1 out of 6 for my age or 1 out of 10 might be normal. So because I produce one a month, I have a 10-month journey to go through them. But it's like they don't get it. They don't get it. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yes, Laura, about Simply Tanika. Yes. So happy for her. It's just amazing. I can't wait for a baby to get Earthside. And yes, if I had a nickel for how many times people had even medical professionals. Yes. Yes, you're right. Even medical professionals. Absolutely. Hi, Laz. 100%. I had a close friend. I had to pray like 1,000 rosaries. I was like, in my mind, this is not something funny to someone who's going through so many. Absolutely. Yes. It's, and I just, it's hard. It's because, and what's funny is I was talking to my brother when we ended up getting Baba. And he said to me, because I'll share with you guys a personal story. It's, because, half of what happens we don't share in videos. But when I got pregnant, nobody knew what to do. Because when you've been on this journey for a long time, they'll tell you stuff like you can't have it all, career women, because you have career or in faith and love, which is true because you feel that way at some point. Or then when it works, nobody, you expect to be like, oh, it worked. No, no, no. For me, it was like people didn't know what to do, like shock, like it worked. And I remember I wanted us to celebrate it. So after the 12 weeks, my therapist and I had discussed a plan. And my therapist said, I think you should celebrate every moment, because if you keep on, you can't keep doing this for 9 months, right? I could not keep like just in fear because, you know, the anxiety. And so celebrate every moment. So whatever happens, you will know you celebrated the baby up to that point. And so that's how I relanguaged myself into, okay, I'm going to celebrate. And my brother really didn't, one of my brothers. And so when I ended up getting Baba, he said to me, and I asked him, I said, why did you? And he said, because I was so scared that it was not going to work. And I didn't know what was going to happen if it didn't work. Like they literally were, they didn't know what it was. And I told him, I said, you know what? I would have signed myself up at the nearest facility and paid to be, you know, then I would just walk in there and just close the world, make sure I got the help that I needed. I said that half joking because you gotta also think about if it doesn't work, what's gonna happen. Like, and you know, one person that I was really my anchor if my cycles were not going to work was a lady called Jessica Hepburn. If you guys want to take a look at her. Her name is Jessica Hepburn. If you ever just pull her up on YouTube. Jessica Hepburn went through 11 cycles of IVF and 3 miscarriages and has come no baby. 11 IVF cycles, 11 conventional, not even the mini conventional. So the pain of the medicines, everything, and 3 miscarriages, and is on the other side. She's still with us. She's here. She's from England. And she, because that's the thing of sharing stories, right? Because when I had reached at that point, I was like, how am I, what, if it doesn't work, what will I do? And so I remember she was really my hope. And I knew that I was going to be okay, child-free. I knew. And our pathway really was donor egg if it wasn't going to work. And I can't tell you how after you've maximized your journey, you will be more open, actually, funny enough, when you reach that point. But Jessica Hepburn was key. And Jessica Hepburn has decided she did not do another pathway to baby. She just on eggs, and we didn't work after 11 cycles, 3 miscarriages. She started like just rebuilding her life child-free. And she's amazing. And she's done so many wonders for the infertility community. Yeah. Thank you, Laura. Yes. Yes, Laura, relanguaging ourselves. Angel Smiles 86. Yeah, you have to go through the grieving. Yes, you do. If it does not work. And even in between cycles. And it's okay, because what happens is you need your energy and you need to refresh yourself. So I believe in the Oprah method, because sometimes the doctors might seem cold when they tell you this, but I think please know that they don't mean it the bad way, because your doctor is your advocate in this situation. You can't take time off when you have age-related infertility. It is one of the most, it is the trickiest type of infertility to deal with, because you're literally dealing with the biological time clock. So if you take time, that's why I did PGTA, because I knew, because my doctor said, listen, if we have to handle a miscarriage, we're losing a year. And when you PGTA, it tells you the results, trust me, it tells you. By the way, if you PGTA test, you guys just know, unless you tell the clinic to disclose things, they will tell you everything. The gender, you will know everything from that 5-day embryo. So the first time I did it, it was very difficult because they shared everything, and it was hard. But the beauty of it is that like if it has a chance for life, if, what, you can Google that condition to see if, and all that. So yeah, the grieving process is, and it's harder for us with age-related infertility, right, guys? Because every cycle, every month counts, and our fertility really dips. Absolutely. Laura here says, yes, that's what I'm scared of and what stopped me from the leap. I just don't know if I can make it through without a take-home baby. I just don't think I have the strength left after it all. And Laura, and I think what really helped me when I was in your situation, Laura, because that was really hard for me, it was I think sitting down with Ricky and deciding our pathway to baby, right? Because when you say take home, it might mean your own egg, or it might mean that you might be open to what the take home might look like. So for us, we stopped at donor because I was like, Ricky's fine. We could do donor worst case. But remember, Laura, when you first do it, you're not open to it. There's something about creating the plan and praying about it and going through it that gives you that grace to go through this process and have a take home baby. Trust me, because when you put that out to the universe, okay, what are the pathways? Even if you're not ready, what am I most comfortable with? And for me, foster and adoption were like off the wazoo because those, people just don't understand how difficult that is. But it forced me to then learn. So the pathways that I elected, Laura, was, own egg, donor, and then I put in donation if something was to happen, surrogacy if I found out I couldn't carry, then the embryo would, and then foster and adoption. So then, but in my mind, obviously, it was on egg the whole time. But then when I was working through the stages and the budget and creating the plan, having a good doctor helps. I like that Dr. Yillian specializes in women who are older because I got that sense. I felt like I got that sense of community, Laura, because it was women around my age and it was mini IVF and people, it was easier. So getting a good doctor might also help. But you never go into it, Laura, without thinking the way that you're feeling. I want to reassure you. You don't think you have the strength of it all. I mean, I almost fainted when I left the doctor's office when they said donor egg. And then I asked, funny thing is, I said, okay, that's great. And I said, so what percentage of my genetics is it? And they said, oh, it's just epigenetics. And at the time I was like, okay, so basically, like I just couldn't believe it. But she said that there was, IVF would not work for us. I was 41 at the time. But I found a doctor who specializes in women over 40, and we looked at the data to inform our decisions. But and I see here saying, yeah, you wish your RE did mini IVF. He only does conventional, which is 5,000 to 8,000. Yes, and you only get 1 month to try for embryo transfer. Yeah, I get it. And you're 41, which means, yeah, Fimarin, I've had 6 in the. Oh, I'm so sorry, Laura. Yeah, I get it. Miscarriages are tough. I'm so sorry, Laura. Yeah. After the last miscarriage I've had for the first time, yeah, I'm not sure, but yeah, first time they mentioned it. And I know, yeah, Laura, I get it. You cry because it's the loss of a dream. I get it. It's the loss of a dream. Well, please know that, and I know how hard it is when you really care for your RE, but, know that there are other doctors, if you're willing to try with your own eggs, who have worked with older women. And by that, I mean, it's really just the treatment, really. Because if your RE was able to do it, probably they would. But I just learned that with us older women, because our eggs are so fragile and they're older, let's just be honest, we can't, when we, are dealing with all those meds sometimes. And also we don't have the machinery. We can't, the mitosis that happens after fertilization, we're so weak that sometimes we just die on the 3rd or the 4th day. We don't have the machinery that a younger woman does. But one thing, since it's National Infertility Month, I wanted to share with you guys is that I was talking to one of the doctors who focuses on research. And I've always been an advocate of like 3-parent babies. Like if we're using donor egg, why can't they have our genetics play a role? And I know that Dr. Zhang in New York, he started that actually. He actually has made a baby, through the mitochondrial DNA process, where they take the machinery of the donor, but the DNA or the nucleus is yours, and the baby ends up being a 3-parent genetically. But if the child comes out like your own child. And I think we need to do petitions to sign up for that, because I'm a true advocate in using science for that, because some of us, we just want to see our own eyes in that child. But it's banned in the US, unfortunately. So Dr. Zhang had to stop his research, but you can Google it. It's mitochondrial DNA. And there's two ways they do it: the mitochondrial DNA and then the spindle transfer. But I've been looking it up a lot because I feel like in the next 5 to 10 years, this is going to go away. Age is not going to be a factor to prevent us. Absolutely. Um, and Laura, I agree with you too about being open to egg donor. I know I have been because that's the only way I think for us in growing our family. I'm working with the doctor. I'm going to update you guys on my journey. I did go through the PRP and I went through my 13th mini IVF cycle. So there's something about when you try and you maximize your options that there's an awareness that comes up and there's a godliness and a grace that opens up the door. But then, like you said, you're more open to it. Absolutely. Because you have reached that stage of openness, right? And it's a grieving process. Yeah. Camellia, how are you? Thank you for joining us. Yes. Yeah. See here telling, thank you so much for letting Laura know that, because that sense of community, it is. It's the loss of a dream that we had. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, Angel Smiles. Yes, Dr. Zing. Yes, and you know what's funny, Angel Smiles? The only reason I did not use Dr. Zing in New York was because it was the time during the pandemic when they kept telling us about how you couldn't fly to New York because of the COVID. So I ended up going to LA to Dr. Frank Yillian. And yeah, he does mini IVF as well, and he does really good videos as well. Yeah. Does the egg have to be normal? Angel Smile says. When you're doing the 3-parent, no, because remember our eggs are, what causes the abnormality is the age, and what happens with our eggs in layman terms, at least from what I have learned of it. I'm not an expert, but just to let you know, it's during the mitosis that we get those extra chromosomes that cause those defects, that cause miscarriages, and that literally happens on when the egg is after fertilization, when it's now making the duplicate chromosomes, the chromosomes that make the baby. So the division or the mitosis happens at that stage. So the abnormality is already there as soon as the fertilization happens. The testing is what allows you, the parents, to then know the condition of that embryo, and then you can make the decision. So what happens with the 3-parent baby, at least the research I've seen, is they remove the genetic code of who we are, and the machinery is what is replaced. So the donor gives you the machinery to go through the mitosis, because the young eggs, they will divide perfectly. Like if you're a woman between 15 and 24, your eggs are most probably 99%, normal, give and take. Like you will have a baby who's healthy. But then after that age, believe it or not, then that's why you find even some younger women, they can have genetic abnormalities. It's just that the rate of the abnormalities is not as much as it is for us in our 40s. So really what we're doing with mini IVF is you're protecting the fragile eggs you have, the 40 whatever your eggs you have, but then also because so many of our eggs are not normal, you're hunting for the good egg. And the probability that my clinic provided, which I always ask now, always, what is the chance based on the clinic of you getting to the right egg? So like for mine, it was 1 out of 6, 1 out of 8. And so funny enough, Baba was the 6th cycle and he was normal. So, that's, just to give you a heads up on how that works. I would love it if fertility checkups and insurance coverage for egg freezing, yes, would be routine. Absolutely. Now, some companies are actually starting to cover the egg freezing process. For 25 and 30, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe they're covering IVF. But yes, Laura, absolutely. And the funny thing is, sometimes I think, guys, that we in the community, and I think I said this to Simply Tanika the other day, I feel, this was a while back when we last chatted, I feel like what we're doing is we're advocating for the new generation that is coming, because I'm getting a sense of women are now breaking up at 30. Like you're dating somebody and literally the relationship ends when you're 30 and you're starting over, which means you're going to find the right guy at 33, 34, 35, and you're now starting to have a baby at 37. You know what I mean? So gone are the days when people were marrying in their 20s. I don't know if I told you guys, but I actually had one of my, you know how you go to the doctor, one of my OBs that was on rotation at the time that my OB was out. She was really young doctor, and I think she was in her 20s, and she almost made me drop out of my chair. I was pregnant at the time, but because I'm open about my journey. And I was telling her, I was like, I wish somebody told me to freeze my eggs. And she was, I think, in her early 20s, and she said she's frozen her eggs twice. It's like, you mean you guys are freezing your eggs? And I'm just like, this needs to be communicated, because you don't know when you're going to meet the right guy. And why should you settle? Why should we have to settle because of our eggs? And because you can carry a pregnancy until the age of 50, all circumstances considered, really. And so, and most people want their own genetic child. So Laura, I completely agree with you. Yeah, I wish, yeah. And Laura, you say here again, I watched your video for when you mentioned other REs that do IVF, and I think you mentioned one in Tennessee. Yes, Florida, and maybe Illinois. I'm in Mississippi, so maybe I should be willing to go. Yes, because I went out of state. Yes, because Laura, I think you're really where I was, because I just wanted in fact, I was grateful that they did outside monitoring. So because I wanted a chance at my own baby. Donor, you could do. I mean, locally, I could have done it minutes away from my house, but I wanted a doctor who could help me try with my own eggs. And so that's how I found Dr. Frank Healy and Dr. Zhang. And there was the doctor in Tennessee, Dr. Keenan. He does mini IVF as well. And then I think there's there's a doctor, you can watch that video, but there's a doctor in Florida. And then there's one in Missouri, and he's the old G. He does the Danish IVF, which is a form of mini IVF from Denmark. And yeah, you guys can watch that video, but it's great. But Laura, yeah, to answer your question, the beauty of outside monitoring is that you literally would just fly there for the retrievals. The thing about mini IVF, Dr. Zhang has a video on how they do it, which is standard on how it's done everywhere. You don't even need anesthesia. Because remember, it's like a needle prick, because the egg is so minute, and so, but you can take medication, sedation if you want to. There was times I just took Tylenol, and I'd literally fly to LA, and then I'd fly back the next day. Now, some people actually fly in to do the retrieval and come back the same day, because it's not like the heavy medications you do for the regular cycles. So you can definitely do it. And all the monitoring, Laura, you do in your state. You do it. So all the checks, and then you just send the results to the doctor. And outside monitoring is done everywhere in the country. This is something that was new to me, but I was so surprised at how common it is. A fertility clinic will have like actually an outside monitoring person in their place, and they will, like for mine, I just pick up the phone, I call the person, and you fax them the results from your doctor. You show up at the fertility clinic in your local place to do what they call outside monitoring. They do your blood draw, they do your ultrasound, and then the results are sent. And then you talk to your doctor on the phone or Zoom, and then you show up when you're ready, you show up for the retrievals. So yeah, so you can, if you find medically that mini IVF might be the way to go, please know, and you don't have a doctor in your state, please know that you could do it. And also the cost of it. I know cost is an issue. People say, at the time that I did in 2020, it was $3,500 for one cycle, because to get one egg, you don't need to pay $25,000. There is a gift to conventional IVF if you have the egg reserve. My thing is, I like Laura Laws, who's I talk about often. She had 25 eggs each time she did IVF as a 41-year-old woman. I had 3 follicles with 1 egg that made it. So mini IVF made sense to me. In fact, there was a time my doctor did natural IVF, no medication, just followed the egg. We followed it, took it out. Didn't work, but give every embryo. I wanted every egg, give every egg a chance. So yeah. See here. Yes, state of Mississippi. I mean, for many as opposed to, yes, I got that, Laura, when you said that. Angel Smiles 86. Well, that's great. I wish I, yeah. But you know what, Angel, you know why you shouldn't regret it? Because one doctor made me feel really better, a lot in better, when he said to me, if we froze our eggs in our time, those of us in our 40s, if we froze our eggs, the technology wasn't advanced yet. So we would end up being like Khloe Kardashian. You know how Khloe has been very open about her infertility journey? I love Khloe. Khloe Kardashian is amazing. And she talked about how, she had frozen her eggs and she thawed them so that she and Tristan could make embryos at the time before Tristan became crazy, and made a baby through champagne and roses with the other woman while the embryos were frozen. Oh my gosh, what a nightmare, guys. Anyway, but when she and Tristan, she had to go through an additional IVF to get more eggs and then fertilize them. So the technology wasn't advanced. But we had this Japanese doctor, who introduced vitrification. So they freeze it, and it has a higher chance. Now, embryos will actually probably have a longer duration because it's male and it's, and the egg combined, as opposed to egg, which is just the egg. Always embryos is the way to go. But for some people, you're freezing because you're waiting for the right person. You're freezing because it's not the right time. You're freezing so you could donate to yourself. So I get how that can be a plan. Yeah. Hold on. I'm gonna tell Ricky. Hey Ricky, could you turn off the gas, the rice that I'm making for Baba? Just turn it off. I have some rice cooking, and Ricky's gonna get Baba, so I want to make sure. But yeah, just turn it off, babe. Thank you. Let's see here. Yeah. Wow. Frozen her eggs twice already. Yes. She froze because to increase the chances, because the thaw, because she wants to make sure. And I think she told me she wants to have 3 children. So she did 2 sets of, I think, procedures because sometimes it's not guaranteed, obviously. And so, yeah, she shared that with me. And I remember just looking at her and saying, my gosh, I mean, people are doing this and not talking about it. I mean, you're literally saving your medical future. You're guaranteeing yourself a chance to meet the guy of your dreams, and you're going to donate to yourself in future. I mean, what a blessing, guys, right? And but egg freezing and thawing has gotten so much better. Yes, Laura. And man, yes, I know. Oh, I thought about that, Laura. I did. Oh, guys, I have those dreams too, I think about that. I'd have loved to have, I know this is crazy, and Ricky's gonna look at me, he's just walked out the door. He like, because Ricky would have been fine with fewer children, he's fine, with just Baba. I always wanted a big family, I would, and yeah, it's hard. Gotten so much better. Yeah, I know. All right, so Laura asking here, did the clinics inside your state that you were using for everything besides the retrieval charge you anything for their part in addition to your RE in LA? Well, I'll answer it in 2 ways. So if you have health insurance, apparently the monitoring that they do is part of like your regular health insurance, Laura. So it's not part of your fertility benefit. So all they do the ultrasound, it's like your OB checkups. I don't know if that makes sense. So it's covered within your basic health insurance. So no, I just walk in and then charge it to my insurance for the monitoring. Yes, they didn't charge me. I never paid for anything. The only thing I actually paid for was I went to another fertility clinic to get my blood drawn, because my regular clinic that my OB was in would do all the monitoring. But I needed, because the thing is, they need the same day results. So I had to pay to be able to have like my LH drawn, because I'd have to go to get the same day results. And they charged me like $75 each time I went to get LH drawn. $75 once or twice, because LH is probably drawn once or twice in a cycle. But yeah, but your regular health insurance should cover the monitoring that you do, and the blood work that you do for your regular hospital where you have your general like women's hospital. And Laura, you can also actually just call. You can call and just ask about the outside monitoring, and they'll tell you about it. Yeah. Besides the retrieval, okay. And then obviously, Laura, what we did, like my husband and I, the moment we made that decision to try with our own eggs one last time with Dr. Yillian, because he was my fourth doctor. So I went to his webinar. And by the way, guys, he has a free webinar every month. And the next one I think is June 8th, if you wanted to hop on. And and I remember he has a free consultation after the webinar. And I changed my doctor immediately after that consultation and started treatment with them immediately after. But and then 6 cycles later, I got my baby, my embryo and baby frozen. And then we kept going because got excited. I was like, oh, I got to keep going with this. And I'm continuing embryo banking now. I mean, it's just my chances now are like 1 in 20. So yeah, we're gonna have to see. I might have to consider the donor path at this point. I don't know. I'm still thinking about it, but probability is the older that you get, because I'm 46 now. And I have diminished reserve is my issue. But yeah, but Laura, hopefully that helps. But yeah, it should be part of that cost. Okay, charge you anything. And then with Famara age 40, I normally would get 2 to 3 eggs with each cycle. Oh, that's great, Laura. And almost always okay. Wow, Laura, that's amazing. Yeah. And 40 is considered young at my clinic at the Life IVF Center. 40 is actually, it's like the age that they get most excited about, which was so funny because all the other places you go, you're the old hag, right? And then you go to a place where all of a sudden being in your early 40s is like, ooh, it was refreshing. Do you think with mini IVF I would probably produce same results at age 4, like 2 or 3 mature eggs? Obviously I'm not a medical expert, Laura, but the best thing I can explain to you about mini IVF and what it did to me, who didn't have a lot of reserve, so I definitely didn't have the masses of the eggs. It was the treatment was gentle. I felt like my body, I felt like myself again. Like I wasn't sick all the time, and my eggs, because what would happen is with conventional, they wouldn't even mature. And then that canceled the cycle, because to do conventional, you need at least 3 eggs to mature for them to retrieve. But the medications, even my own body, I could tell that I was doing too much for the little eggs I had. So I think with mini IVF, when you have fewer eggs, you can tease them enough to mature, because the goal is to get that egg to then fertilize it and then see if it's normal so that you can have your baby. So part of getting to that stage of making it is getting to mature that egg, even if the egg is not normal, right? You want to mature it, right? You want your body to tell you, and that's why I said that there's no failure, because you already know we have age-related infertility. I already know most of my eggs are bad. Our probability, and I think for you, Laura, it's actually because you're 40, so the probability is probably 1 out of 4 probably is good. Mine at the time was 1 out of 6, 1 out of 8 is good. Is to now nurture that egg and then find out if it's a healthy egg. But if you're not even nurturing the egg and it's dying, it defeats the purpose. And I think that's sometimes is what happens. I hope that helps a little bit. So what I like about mini IVF is the treatment approach, and it gives the embryo a chance to get to the place of information, which can help you then make decisions moving forward. Now, the only thing with mini IVF for us is that it does take longer. But I think for you, Laura, you can talk to Dr. Yillian, maybe just do a free consult just to find out the probability. I think for your age, it's 1 out of every 4. So if you committed to like 4 or 5 cycles to be safe, just to test it out, then you would be able to see. But remember, the normal egg, the thing that science hasn't predicted for us, guys, we don't know when that normal egg is. And I'm looking at this, I'm being Ricky. I want to find out the research. I want to find out when we can get to that is there a way of predicting that the normal egg is going to be in this cycle versus the other? But it's chance. So it's always a chance. So, but they're there. The thing is, Laura, the good eggs are there. You just have to find a way and a doctor to help you hunt for them. And so hopefully that's helpful. But yeah, I'm going to Life IVF. Oh, Laz, yeah, okay. But they don't provide the breakdown for the egg retrieval. My insurance wants the breakdown, but Live IVF doesn't provide that. Any advice? For your insurance. Yes, so you can, what you can do is talk to the people in finance, Laz. I think at the time, can't remember the name of the person I used to work with. But I would just call the finance department and tell them if they can divide it up for you, just divide it when you do the breakdown. So they can just break it down like in a way, just tell them that you need it for insurance purposes and for reimbursement, and they will probably just work with you. So I'll just call them and say, hey, is there any way, because I'm relying on my insurance money to enable me to do more cycles. Is there any way that you could work with me? And I think most clinics, if you explain to them the situation, they can see what they can do. Or you could even maybe ask Dr. Yelian and see if there's any way that you could be helped with that as well, Laz. Yeah, previous clinic will say culture of oocyte assisted. I will try again and call them that. Yes, yes. Okay. When you say culture of the oocyte assisted, do you mean in terms of costs? Oh yeah, for the extras. Yeah, and you know what's funny too about the extras? Sometimes insurance I know doesn't cover the extras. I know that for Life IVF, like ICSI, I love that they do ICSI because also that whole thing of like, giving chance. I'm like, put listen, I'm old. Put the thing in there. Let's do assist the fertilization. We are doing ICSI. I love that they do ICSI there and it's not even an issue, but I think ICSI is with the price. Yeah. And Laura, let's see here. Yeah, that's what my OB and RE says. The fact I keep getting pregnant, but seems to be a bad egg because it ends in a miscarriage. But yeah. Laura, it's hard. And I don't know, Laura, did you do, when you went through the miscarriages, if you don't mind me asking, did you do any type of testing for them to maybe just see what happened? Any of the 6, just curious. Because again, I think, obviously you have no problem getting pregnant. And again, I'm not a medical doctor here, just we're sharing ideas. And that's heartfelt, Laura. Those are your babies. I get it. It's, yeah, it hurts. I think, when I watched Alex go through her miscarriages, and I remember Alex did her egg retrieval. She had her embryos and she kept transferring them back in, and it just kept ending up in miscarriage. And really, Alex was one of the reasons I decided to just do PGTA before transferring. So and I just stopped. I didn't do fresh anymore. Fresh transfers. I started doing frozen. And my doctor actually is the one that suggested embryo banking, because when you're older too, Laura, I don't think for you embryo banking may necessarily be what, but just to say for me, being at the time I was 43, I needed to make use of the time I had left. So I couldn't, it wasn't the best use of our time to retrieve and then go through a transfer. It was, let's get all the eggs we can, because time is, and then think about transferring later. And so when we got Baba, even though he was fine, we got him, we froze him. And then you guys obviously know that I could have continued embryo banking with Baba in the freezer, but I needed hope after a year, because it wears on you. Embryo banking, it wears on you. And I knew that if I had Baba in front of me, if God would give me the grace of Baba, if he worked, then I would have the energy to move on. And I can't wait to share with you guys once I edit these videos of my 13th cycle. Doing it with Baba is so different. My life is so different when you have that baby, and you're now going through, and I know it's not the same for everybody, going for your second child, but just the grace and openness I've had with him in going through additional cycles. So yeah, absolutely. And Laz says, Laura, you have to keep trying. I'm also in my 6th cycle. And I think in a way too, I think that's what's hard because we're dealing with age, and I also think it's okay to take time to grieve and heal. Um, and maybe just to find out, Laura, to find out, through, what's going on. And if it is indeed abnormalities, then I would say, because what happens, Laura, is if you decide that you are going to not transfer anymore, but you're going to go through IVF retrievals and freeze and test, then what happens is the doctor, then the geneticist, they will give you the information before you put the embryo back. And I think that's what I discovered. If you guys watch my video of my most successful IVF cycle, that was the reason why I label it my most successful one, even though it was a failure, because I knew everything about that embryo. And God gave me the grace to not carry it to the point where I would have been pregnant for 6 months and then something happened to it, because it was just not going to have a chance. And funny thing is, if I had transferred that embryo, Baba wouldn't be here. So, it's heartfelt. But I know Alex does such a good job of explaining. And I think if you ever just wanted to know how it all works, doing PGTA testing. So what would happen, Laura, is you would literally go through an egg retrieval cycle. They would retrieve your eggs. And then whatever made it to the fifth day, fertilized, through ICSI or whatever made it to the fifth day, you would freeze it. And then you would send it to testing. And you would get the results back. And if it did come back that it was normal, and if you still wanted to find out what YouTubers are doing, you would do the ERA to do a transfer back, or you could freeze it and you could continue embryo banking if you thought about wanting to grow your family even more. Sometimes they say if you can have 2 or 3 normal embryos, even if it's over the span of a few years, then the odds are one might work out well. I know I just needed to do it for me. I couldn't do 3 years of banking. And I'm continuing to bank now to see. But my pathway has always been own egg and then donor. But I think, Laura, you're on the right track. You're maximizing. But that, I think that's what I would maybe suggest. But again, I'm not a medical professional, just sharing insights here. And I see here, never tested anything outside of DNCs that I had to do. Okay, that's how I found out. Okay, yeah. Okay, totally an egg issue in my case. Empty egg, good sperm. I see what you're saying. Okay. So yeah, got it. So you're getting information. You're getting information, letting you know. I think that's great. But outside of the hospital, done patho testing from DNC products of conception, never sent it off further for complete genetic analysis. Most of my miscarriages happen 7 to 11 weeks. Okay. Yeah. Again, I can only share my experience, Laura. I know this is difficult, but I think if I know what I learned from Phil and Alex, when they did the PGTA, it provided so much information for all the embryos they had, that it was so hard for me, guys, because it was really at the time, and I didn't know that my successful cycle was around the corner. I mean, I'd gone through a failed fresh and frozen transfer, because I had, had intended to transfer. I did a fresh transfer, the egg ran away, and then I did a frozen transfer and they failed. And that was, I think, my 3rd or 4th IVF attempt. And so part of the research I did was to find out, why they failed. And then I found that out. And I think that's the way to go next. But keep us posted. I'm sorry to hear that, Laura. It's really hard. 6 miscarriages is hard. It's heartfelt. It is. I think we're approaching the hour. Oh my gosh, guys, this was so random. I didn't even because, I'm so bad with technology. I'm like a child of the 70s. And so, and Ricky was kind of working upstairs and, I was on this lunch break and I was just like, you know what, I'm taking a late lunch. I'm going to try the live because I love how Uniquely Ursi did her live with her daughter. And it's such a great way to connect with you guys. And I thought, what better day than National, Infertility Month? June is our month, it honors our journey. And I think, this togetherness, just a space for us to just talk in the middle of the day. I think it does us good, and I've always enjoyed watching lives when people just talk to one another, hop on and just share their feelings. But my heart goes to you guys, and it's tough, and we just have to support each other and hang in there. I think I may do another live again at some point, but I'll definitely advertise it. I'm happy to just share my experience, really, just help you guys, and let's talk about it. Let's end the stigma of infertility. It's tough. We want our take-home babies. We do, and I think the more that we can come out and talk about it and share what we're going through, I think the more empowered we can become, and we can walk away like knowing something different, thinking about something differently, feeling supported. And I think it helps us get to the next step. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Laura. Thank you, Laura. Looking for signs on what next step I'll be TTC cleared in September. Yeah. Thank you, Laura. And Godspeed for your healing. Oh, thank you, Kay. Thank you. Yes, Baba is our. Oh, thank you, Angel Smiles 86. Oh, I know. It's like, Tanika was always telling me to do a live, and I think I was just nervous. And, I think because it's overwhelming being a mom too, being a new mom, because, at 46, it's like my life was in one way, and now like just balancing with my husband and figuring out a time. And so I'm really glad I got on here to be able to do it. Oh, thank you, Laura. Oh, thank you. Thank you, guys. Well, I will leave you just for now. But Laura, I am thinking of you. I am praying for you. Angel Smileflix, please talk to the financial office, specifically billing, and just let them know your situation. Tell them that, if they have just to divide it into, whatever P codes or whatever that you need, just tell them that you really are looking at getting these reimbursements to fund your other cycle. Absolutely. And last, keep me posted as well. Laura, you as well. And Angel Smiles, hang in there. Don't give up. Don't give up. If it's age-related infertility, just keep going until you can't, like I said, the God will give you the sign. I tell you guys, just, you will know when it's time. You will know when it's time, and Godspeed. All right, guys. So I'm going to end this for now, and I will see you next time. Bye.